people,
No, this was cool. I mean, like you said, it just got to be like a regular conversation. I mean,
right?
like when we start talking and we're so passionate about it, so this is the conversation is gonna take itself there, honestly.
Exactly. And
And then like as long
that's
as
why I
we,
reached out to you, bro, because I know like we kind of think alike in this to where it's like, bro, sports are so much bigger than just what happens on the field.
100%.
And
It's more mental than people really
oh
think.
my, it's more mental than it is physical.
Yeah,
I could go
100%.
and lift weights and throw footballs and do all that, but it doesn't matter. Like if I'm not there mentally,
Then
we doing all it for nothing. You feel me?
100%. Yeah, everything else is like has it's not gonna transfer over unless you're there mentally locked in mentally.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So we'll kind of get started.
I bet.
I mean, to whoever's listening, man, this is the first podcast built to last. I'm Cruz. Got my guy JMO on with me, man.
Sure.
Um, and we're gonna hop straight into it. So, pretty much what we're trying to establish here is a platform to where athletes can look. Because JMO and I, we played at a high level, but obviously there's levels to it. We're everyday people, just like whoever's watching this. We're no different than you, and we just want to give you guys something to look to for some support. Because I know I've been in situations, I'm sure JMO's been in situations where we feel hopeless and there's no one to look to. We don't know who to go to for help. We don't know, I mean, really how to deal with it. Because especially as young men growing up in the time we did and the way we did, um, especially in football, we're told just let it go, bro. Like,
Just let it
you,
go.
exactly.
You gotta be tough. You can't show emotions.
Mhm.
You can't like show that side of you. You gotta
Mhm.
like tough it out. Like there's a whole bunch of different phrases that we've heard.
Yeah,
Um, like trying to just mask that when you should really just, try to attack it head on. So that's what, we built this where we wanted to start this podcast just to be able to have regular conversations, to be able to like break that stigma that's been around mental health for a while. And just create like a space for people to, let it be known that it's okay to communicate your feelings. It's okay to talk to your friends, have someone to talk to, and not feel alone and trapped.
exactly. Like the way I think about it, they build airplanes, they build boats, they all got life rafts on them. They're not
Mhm.
planning on crashing. I mean, we're not going in the air hoping we crash, but they all got the life rafts. And so,
Exactly.
I mean, end all be all, we can be that life raft for you. Um, Me and Tyler both, we make ourselves very available. If anybody needs to talk, wants to talk, obviously both of our lines are open and available. And the podcast we're creating, Built to Last, the reason we stem from that name because we both played Division One football. He's still playing. I've moved on from that chapter, but um, we build ourselves up. A lot of people will call football like modern day gladiators, and so you build your body to last throughout an entire season. Unfortunately, none of that matters if your mind's not built to last through that. If you're not mentally there, you're going to have a really hard time being successful in whatever it is that you're doing. But especially in the world that we live in today, there's this negative stigma around mental health, and we're just trying to push that out the window. There's no shame in needing help. Everybody needs help. It's
Nope.
just a matter of reaching out and asking for it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Like the biggest thing is like speaking up, that's a big way to break the stigma. And I think that could mean just checking on a friend, checking on a teammate, being able to have that open communication with the coach, just like being able to ask if you're okay. And I think a lot of people struggle and a lot of people struggle with the same things, but we tend to act like everything's fine. How you doing? Oh, I'm fine. Just trying to like push it to the side, not trying to actually bring it up. And it makes it feel like everyone else has to do the same thing. Like, oh, he's just, he's fine all the time. So maybe I'm fine all the time. Even though like, no, you're struggling and there's certain things going on. So like that kind of stigma like creates a cycle and it puts people down a rabbit hole. And we're trying to create an environment and continue to um, explain how important it is to have that open communication, have a support system, have an environment or area where you feel like you can just open up and just explain and express your emotions and whatever you're feeling.
For sure, for sure. And so to kick it off, just so everybody can get to know us a little better, Tyler, I want you to go ahead and kind of explain your story, how you've gotten to where you've got, um, and then maybe a little bit about why you're so passionate about mental health as well.
Of course. Yeah, so my name is Tyler Jamison. I'm currently a student athlete at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. Originally from Lawrence, New Jersey, which is about 2.5 hours from Sacred Heart. Um, I've played sports my whole life, football, lacrosse, basketball, soccer, and now playing football right now. But sports has always been something that's been a part of my life. I've always been really passionate about it. And I've also been really passionate about mental health, raising awareness about it, trying to break the stigma, trying to just communicate to my friends, family, and anyone who's listening that it's a real thing and a lot of people struggle with it. And I want to be a part of that process and that movement and trying to, um, create an environment where people can just express themselves and find help and not feel trapped. A little bit about my story, um, and like really why I'm passionate about mental health is my father passed away my sophomore year of high school. And that was like a big piece of adversity for me, losing someone that's such a big role, it plays a big role in your life. Someone who I looked up to, someone who I saw as a role model. Seeing him not be here anymore and not be able to guide me the rest of my life, it was kind of just something that like hit me hard. And at first, I didn't really know how to go about it. I didn't want to worry people, my family. I didn't want to worry my friends. So I kind of just kept everything in. And I now realize, and I realized and understood that's probably not the best way to go about it.
Sure,
Um, I also realized that a lot of other people are struggling too. A lot of other people have their own stories. Everyone has their struggles. Everyone has adversity that they're facing. Um, so I kind of just was like, once I realized, like, okay, I got to take this a different way. I got to go out, find ways in which I can help myself. Because now it's going into how I'm performing. Now it's going into how I'm viewing academics, my relationships. Everything's now being affected by that. So I wanted to take initiative and be able to go out and seek help and ask and talk to people and like, hey, like this is what I'm feeling. Like I'm not afraid now. Like I'm not afraid to express myself because I know what it would do to me if I hold it all in. So that's kind of how I became passionate about mental health and raising that. And now we're here talking about it and trying to, push that narrative on other people and allow other people to understand that it's okay to express yourself. Specifically young men too, because there's been like a big stigma around men not being able to express themselves. We're talking about that alongside with athletes in general too. So that's my little bit about my story.
for sure, for sure. And can you kind of explain to us how your transition to college was, especially because that wasn't that far after everything that
Right.
happened with your dad and COVID and all that. So can you kind of talk about how that transition was for you going into college, the I guess the challenges of what that was and how you face that?
100%. Yeah. So COVID was a whole nother challenge in itself.
Sure.
Everyone felt isolated. It was a different way of life. People had to adapt to that way of living, but I also think that affected recruiting. I think it affected where I was going to school, how I was being viewed at like by different coaches. And it was a bit of an adjustment, I think, not only for me, but just for like anyone, just in universities, just like the sport itself was just it took a minute for people to adjust. So I would say recruiting wise, I wasn't able to go to as many campuses as I wanted to. I wasn't able to have conversations with coaches that could come to the school because we were all isolated. So I think that affected my recruiting. I've always had dreams and aspirations to play at the highest level, play Division I football, and go to school and get a good education. I play a sport I love for free. So that was something that I always pushed for. And I think COVID didn't allow me to do that. But at first, um, when I first was in the recruiting process coming out of senior year, I didn't get as many looks as I wanted to. I didn't get the big schools that I wanted to go to, or um, didn't have the opportunity. So I first attended Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, which is a small Division III school. Great academics. That was always something that was big in my family.
Yeah.
Um, if you don't have good grades, if you're not, paying attention to school, you're
Yeah.
not. That's always something that's been preached to me. So I took that very serious. And when picking schools, I definitely looked at that. So I started off at Trinity College. I played my freshman year. Um, and I also played my sophomore year as well. And there, I learned a lot. It was a great environment. I met wonderful people, great coaching staff, and had a really good time there. But I didn't feel satisfied. I wanted to continue trying to achieve my dream and my goals. So I took a leap of faith, I entered the transfer portal. That was something in itself too. I was a bit worried about because, there's a possibility where you enter your name in the transfer portal and you don't get another opportunity. But I think the biggest thing that was pushing me was like that possibility of feeling like the regret later down the road, like wow, like if I don't do this, I might 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road, I'd be like, wow, like I really could have did that. Like why didn't I try to,
Yeah, yeah,
so, and I know if my dad were here, he would probably say the same thing. Like, hey, look, like, you've proven to yourself, you've proven to everybody else that you can play at a next level. Like, why not? Why not try it? You never know. He always used to say, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So, pushing yourself out there, allowing yourself to have the possibility to fail, but there's also a big possibility that you'll succeed. And that's what I did, and ended up going to or being recruited by a couple of different schools, and I felt most at home at Sacred Heart. So now I'm at Sacred Heart. It's been a full year now. So yeah.
yeah, for sure, bro. That's sick. I kind of wanted to ask you too about that recruiting process because me and you, it probably wasn't that different. We're the same class coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't getting the love you thought you should have been getting. Um, Kind of break that down for us and talk about how that, like how you dealt with that. Like what made you keep going? Because I know for me personally, it was like, bro, I'm not getting no love. Like I don't even, what am I doing at this point? Like I feel like I'm wasting my time. So just kind of talk about how you were able to keep going, keep your head down and working.
100%. Yeah. So coming out of high school, it was like I had a lot of other friends that I played with, and they were getting recruited to the schools that I had wanted to get recruited to, but they were also a year older than me. They had a little bit more experience. They had a little bit more. They were a little bigger than me, a little taller, a little faster, a little stronger. So I think they had a bit of an advantage towards that aspect. And I kind of just went into high school like for all 4 years straight. I didn't like reclass or
Mm,
anything like that. So, I kind of was like, okay, well, they're getting these opportunities, they're doing this and they're doing that, and I'm not, so it was kind of like mentally it was like, what am I not doing? Like, I don't understand. And I just kind of just had to tell myself, like, hey, like, God's working, you just got to keep trusting him, keep believing in that, and understand that my time will come, and I just got to keep on relying on my discipline, my passion, because I understand like football has always been something that I've been passionate about. I couldn't let that younger self who loved throwing the ball around, I couldn't let him down. So I kind
yeah,
of just like I relied on that as motivation. And no matter what, I knew I was going to play, whether that be Division 3, Division 2, Division 1. JUCO, I didn't really care. I just wanted to keep playing. So when the process and the opportunities weren't showing at first, I kind of just was like, okay, I'm not getting the looks I want, but what can I do? What can I control? You can't control the uncontrollable. You got to control what you can control. And I kind of just was like, okay, this is the situation I'm in. How can I make the best out of it? And I just kept doing that, kept having that mindset. Even in the face of adversity, I just kept pushing through and eventually ended up where I wanted to be. So,
for sure. That's sick, bro. Um, so now I'm gonna give a little bit of my background. Obviously, like I just said, me and Tyler were the same class, so that COVID really stumped everything we had going on. I mean, it hit our junior year or sophomore year, bled
it was
into
like
the season.
spring, sophomore year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how y'all did, but in California, we played 4 games and
Mm.
I had just transferred to a new school. So I was splitting time. It was rough,
Yeah.
honestly. It was a lot to deal with because I had a twin brother at another school. Leaving him behind, it was like
Mm.
brand new experience, bro. And so go out my senior year, had a pretty good year, ended up getting ranked a 3-star by 24/7. So I was expecting to get some love. I had
Mm.
a couple PWOs, but it was like, is that how they see me? If that's what I'm worth to them,
Right.
I don't really know that that's where I want to go. So
Mm.
I bet on myself, went the JUCO route. First year JUCO wasn't great. Simply put, wasn't
And where
great.
were you at? What school was that
I was at
again?
Delta College in
That's college.
Stockton, and so
Okay.
I spent a year at Delta, well, a semester at Delta. I got sacked. It was like 36, 37 times in 7 games.
Wow.
Yeah, got got beat up pretty good. Um, got a pretty bad concussion. I thought I was going to be done. Um, was able to work through it. Decided that I needed to change the scenery, so I transferred up to Sierra College in Rockland, another JUCO. Um, And shoot, I just saw God put everything into work, man. It was beautiful. I ended up getting baptized that season as well.
Okay.
But ended up putting together a pretty good year. Was a JUCO All American, had some pretty good numbers. Both my best games were against two of the best teams in the state. Um, and so I have some schools reaching out to me. Got my first D1 offer from Bryant.
Okay.
Uh, wasn't really the right fit. So Coach Gardner at SHU ended up calling me a couple weeks later, and I was ready to commit on the phone call, but
All right.
he was like, just come out and visit, and we'll see what we can do. And so I come out on the visit. It feels like home. I mean, there's nothing more to say to it, which is crazy because it's in Connecticut, coming all the way from California.
Right. Across the
But
coast.
real life, bro, all the way across the country. So ended up doing that, and I'm really glad I did it. Honestly, it only, I mean, JMO knows, but it only lasted for a year. I ended up medically hanging him up after my junior season. I had a history of concussions and just decided that I needed a new, I needed a change.
Mhm.
But overall, really grateful for the opportunity that Sacred Heart provided me, the people it blessed me with meeting, a lot of relationships I won't never forget. And so that's kind of my testimony, my story behind all this. And
Okay, yeah. So I
we
know
kind of,
you mentioned a little bit about your recruitment out of high school, going to JUCO. Tell me a little bit about that process and how it felt mentally, having guys, other guys might not going to JUCO first or might be going straight into the school that they wanted to be at. Tell me how that little pivot in your career affected you mentally.
yeah. So especially like playing in Stockton, we had a lot of guys getting out. We had guys signing Arizona, UCLA, USC, all kinds of big schools. So I'm seeing that, and my ranking really isn't that far off from theirs. We went out, we beat those teams. I had good games against them. So I'm kind of sitting there like wondering where my love's at. So like in the back of my head, I'm wondering, am I doing enough? Like, am I not good enough to play at that level? So I'm questioning my ability, questioning everything, really, everything I've known. So like that, like obviously that takes a toll. It's hard when you feel like you're not enough. And that's where I was at. I felt like I wasn't enough. So at that point, I was already almost ready to just give it up. And I don't know what it was. I think a lot of it was my family pushing me, my siblings pushing me. My sister was at Oregon at the time. So it's like, bro, I'm shooting for the stars. She's at Oregon, like she's hooping. And so I'm, I just know I got to keep going. And so I decided go the JUCO route. Me and my twin brother, we went to the same JUCO, so that really helped. But yeah, it was a challenge within itself for sure. It's brutal. I mean, you see everybody else going out and doing their thing, and it's you hear about the struggle of JUCO, the JUCO grind, and it's scary, honestly. But I went, I did the thing, I attacked it, and I think a lot of it had to do with my circle around me, kind of opening up about those challenges with my family. Uh, I had been the first time I went to therapy for the first time when my freshman or sophomore year of high school, and I had ended up stopping just because everybody's like making fun of therapy. I go online on the internet and I see people talk about like, bro, like you're a man. Why are you asking for help? You don't need help. And I fed into that, honestly. I thought as a man, as someone who's trying to grow into a man, that I shouldn't rely on resources that men don't need. My dad was a big help in that and telling me it's okay to be sad. Like it's completely okay to struggle. It's not okay to try to deal with it yourself though. Like you can only fight back for so long in your head before it grows to be too much.
Right.
So I think a lot of it was just being able to ask for help, having some humility and understanding that I'm not the only person going through these things. And one of my big struggles too was comparison. Like I'm like, bro, they're going through way more than I am. That doesn't mean I don't have problems, but at the time that's what I thought. I
Right.
think a lot of it for me was perspective and understanding that just because my problems don't seem as big or small as other people's, that doesn't mean they don't exist. So that was definitely those were probably two of my best ways of dealing with that
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, got you. And then going from JUCO to not liking Brian at first, and then lo falling in love with Sacred Heart. How was it finally hanging up your cleats after at playing was that for a year at Sacred Heart? How was that mentally? I know you said you were struggling like the concussions and you want to prioritize your mental health and your health in general over football. So how was that leaving the sport that you had played for majority of your life really and finally saying enough is enough and prioritizing your mental health and your well-being? How was that?
Yeah, yeah. I'm really glad you asked that actually. And honestly, I'm still dealing with it right now. It's hard. You go from being in a locker room with 130 guys, something like that, always around, always around people, always feeling love, to being by yourself, to being in a super small circle. And it's hard. Like I understand now, you see former athletes, and a lot of them struggle. A lot of them, people say they're going crazy or they're doing this and that.
Mhm.
Oh, a lot of those people have never gone from being around 130 brothers to being by yourself. Like
Right.
it's hard. It's
Yeah.
not easy. And a lot of dealing with it is understanding that those guys still love you. Like you're not alone. Just because you're not there no more, it's not like that gets cut off.
Right.
And that was super hard for me at first,
Mhm.
trying to deal with that. But shoot, I was just on the phone with John, one of the quarterbacks I played with that shoe. We're on the phone for like an hour and a half last night, just chopping it up.
Chopping it up.
So I think a lot of it is understanding that reaching out to people goes both ways though. Like I have a hard time reaching out to people. And that's something I've been working on a lot lately is just having that humility and being able to let down my own guard and understand that it's okay to have other people there and to reach out to them and have those conversations. So it's been a challenge for sure. It's not easy,
Mhm.
but I think I've also grown more in the last 5 months now than my previous 20 years of life, dang near. So it's been cool being able to look back and kind of see how I've grown, particularly in my faith. Um, I know this isn't a Christian pod, but me and JMO both Christian student athletes, so we might touch on it.
Mhm.
We'll try not to dive into it too far, just to kind of keep the two things separated, but we're also not going to hide our faith.
Yeah. It's a big thing that's definitely helped us out in terms of adversity, as something that we can rely on, something that pushes us to keep going, to continue to be ourselves, continue to do things that we love. So it's definitely going to be something that's brought up. But like Cruz said, we're not going to try to make it all about that. But
Yeah, yeah. And kind of taking that as a gateway, um, what are some like tools that you feel like you have used to aid in your battle with mental health?
Mhm. Um, yeah, like you said, you touched up on it earlier when you were saying therapy. So I actually go to a sports psychologist at Sacred Heart. Is actually what I want to do career-wise. I want to be a sports psychologist and help athletes with their mental health struggles. So with knowing that and knowing that that's something I like wanted to do, something that I wanted my career to be, I thought that I'd go see the resources that Sacred Heart have to offer and see if they have something there. And I found the sports psychologist there, and I've been to her. I think I was there majority of the season. After battling my injury that I had, it was something that was another thing that it was a big struggle and piece of adversity. I tore my labrum in my shoulder, so um,
Yeah,
I
well,
would.
before you move on with the tools, what about you go ahead and touch on that because we've both dealt with some injury stuff in the past, and like that's the biggest struggle as anything, having to watch and see everybody out there, especially going into a new school, and it's like I know what I'm capable of, I know what I can do, but I just can't show it right now.
Right.
Kind of touch on that and how you've kind of attacked that challenge.
Yeah. So like we were saying, like the tools and stuff like that. I've used that, and I've used therapy has like a big um, piece to help me get through that struggle. And with the injury that I had, it was kind of frustrating. I transferred last January with the aspirations of playing throughout the full fall season. And then I got hurt the last week of preseason camp. It was like a week and a half before our first game. So that was very frustrating. I did all the off-season workouts. I did waking up early in the morning, going to all the meetings, going to all the practices,
Bad
and
drills, 6 a.m.
those 6 a.m. workouts. It was a lot. And I think it took a lot out of me to just be like, okay, let me not play the rest of the season. Let me just get the surgery. I just like I need to continue to see if I can play through it. And then I finally made a decision after I re-dislocated it. I was like, okay, let me just go get the surgery. I need to focus on my health, or else I'm not gonna be able to be the guy. I'm not gonna be able to be the same player that I want to be out there if I'm not prioritizing my health and making sure that I get the shoulder fixed and figured out. So that was a bit of a struggle. I wanted to prove to everyone there and to myself that I could play at that level. So having this setback was just something that I had to get over mentally. But looping back around to the tools, I used the therapist, I used my resources that they were there, knowing that, a lot of people view guys going to therapists as like, oh, he's crazy. He's going to therapist. What's wrong with him? Like, and that's something that we're trying to break. Like I knew like if I did that and I'm open about it, more people are gonna be more inclined to use that resource and more people are not gonna feel like it's something to shy away about. Like I view it as something that I could talk about. I'm comfortable with being able to say that I go to someone, I use my resources, I express my emotions to someone else who can give me the proper tools, who's educated and knows what to do and can help me out. And not only help me mentally, but also that mental aspect. We said the game's like 90% mental and then like 10% physical.
Sure.
So that's, being able to um, use that resource and help me out mentally also allowed me to perform better and allowed me to jumpstart my rehab really for my shoulder. Um, but yeah, and I've also been able to, when we're talking about the tools, I've also opened conversations up with some of my teammates, encourage them to be more vulnerable. I've also tried to communicate with coaches about bringing in mental health speakers to come in and talk to guys, come in and talk to our whole team. In the winter, we have different people come in like and talk to us. So I was like, I figured that that would be something that could be helpful for us. So we're still in the works for that. And just trying to find ways in which I can continue to advocate for that. So
Super cool. And I meant to ask you, so what percent of guys do you think deal with mental health? I won't call them problems, but just mental health struggles, maybe
yeah.
on like within your locker room.
I think majority of the team, honestly, you think about football in general, you think about the injuries, you think about the pressure, you think about like performance-based pressure, you think about them trying to balance
Mhm.
social life, academics, athletics, all at the same time. You think about wanting to play, not getting enough playing time. Like all that comes into play, and I think a lot of people might have problems, might have not problems, might have struggles that they're going through that they might not even know it's something like that's there.
Mhm.
Um, but it also presents itself in different ways. But I think there's a lot more, a lot of a bigger percentage that are struggling
That's
than
what I mean. I was thinking like at least 80, 85,
yeah.
90%.
I
And
would I would go around there 80%,
for
85%. Yeah.
sure. And then like piggybacking on that, I can probably count on two hands how many conversations I've had about mental health challenges.
100%. Yeah. Like I said, like I definitely going into it, I was like, I don't, a lot of people are like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not gonna voice anything, we're not that close. I don't want him to view me a different way. But like those are the things that are like holding people back from those conversations. And then that's then causing that person to now feel like they're alone. Like that's not something that um should be around. You should be able to feel comfortable expressing yourself. You should be able to create an environment where your friends can come to you and know that they have an outlet in you, they have a resource in you. And that's what I did. And like throughout being there for almost well, a little bit over a year now. And I've had a lot more conversations than I did at my previous school, and then I have had ever really on any
Yeah.
team I'm on. So just because I know that that's like I'm not afraid to be the one to like bring it up. I'm not afraid to be the one to tell someone else that I'm also struggling too. Because I started that way. I say, hey, look, I'm struggling with this, or like I'm vulnerable first, and then I allow other people to then be vulnerable themselves. Because then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna create a cycle where it's like, okay, he knows I'm struggling, so it's okay if he struggles, and it's okay if he knows that I struggle, and it's okay that other guys know that we're all struggling, like we're all in this together. It's not something to shy away from. If anything, it makes you stronger because now it's like, okay, when you go out on the field, you know that you're playing with someone who struggles the same as you, but we're out here doing it anyway. We're out here playing a sport that we love and we're very passionate about, and it makes it makes playing with that person like 100%, like way better than it would be if you didn't know that about them. It just makes the connection way deeper.
For sure, for sure. Kind of adds on to that family aspect. Because I was having this, I was going down this thought process, and I was like, bro, every single person has mental health challenges. I don't care how big or how small it is. Everybody faces them, especially today with social media and everything like that. Expectations are everywhere, especially as student athletes. And
100.
so, kind of piggybacking on those conversations just aren't had as much as they should be. And I think a lot of that has to do with this stigma. And that's a big part of why we're doing this built to last podcast. We're trying to break down walls. And obviously we're just two people. I don't know how many walls we're gonna break, but even if we could get through to just one person,
It
this whole
all
thing's worth it. Like
right.
I think especially my goal with this is just being able to open up doors for people. I'm not I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't think I'll be able to heal somebody, but I do think that with us talking about it, it can give people a little push to go get the help they need. And we're also providing tools, talking about our own testimony, our own experiences, and how we're able to break down those walls in our own lives. So
100%.
that's pretty much the angle with this. And yeah, it's exciting to think about making a difference within our communities and the people we care about. So, we're going to kind of keep moving on. You talked about those tools. What would you say? What do you think? When do you think you saw the biggest growth for you? Would you say it was like when you first started therapy? Would you say it was when you first started talking to your teammates? Would you say it's like now? I mean,
I would say actually before, I would say before I transferred actually, is when I saw the biggest growth in myself. Because I made it a point for myself to do the research. I made it a point to myself to go out and listen to podcasts, listen to everyone else's testimonies, listen to people who have had to step away from the game because they weren't able to deal with their struggles. I've researched about conversations within like guys who have left the league and are not playing anymore, and how they're bringing on guys who are playing, and their conversation is like, hey, like, like, what are you guys doing? So like, I'm grabbing information, I'm educating myself, I'm allowing myself to understand that this is a normal conversation. This is something that's talked about, and I'm not the only one. So knowing that, and just kind of just like reassuring myself that like, okay, like I can. I can get through this. I'm not the only one. Everyone else is struggling with this too. So then that kind of just like that realization in my mind just helped me out a lot. And then that also then trickled down to the other tools that I'm now using. Like I'm now starting the conversations in the locker room. I'm now the one who was initiating all those conversations. Like now we're doing the podcast. When you brought up the idea to me, I'm like, this is wonderful. Like this is a wonderful thing to do. We're both two guys who have, a lot of people look up to us. A lot of people see us like in a good light. And being able to use our platform is just like it's a wonderful thing. So, um, yeah, I mean, it allowed me also then go to the therapy and go to a sports psychologist and seek help that way because it's like I just felt as though I wasn't, you know, I'm so passionate about it, like so I can't preach this to someone else and not do it for myself. So,
yeah, for sure,
so then it kind of just like took off from there, and I was just, I'm just doing anything I can to like better myself and using all the resources that I have and trying to educate myself as much as I can.
for sure, for sure. Um, and I think talking about therapy, like obviously it's a scary word. I mean, if we're being honest, it's scary for everybody. I'm sure it was scary for you, especially when you first went into it. I was like scared as can be when I first went. I was like, bro, they're gonna think I need to go in a madhouse. Like I can't tell anybody about this. Like this is embarrassing. That was my thought process. But now it's like, bro, I'm recommending everybody go get therapy. It's like, we
Literally.
got problems.
Yep.
Everybody's dealing with struggles.
Mhm.
Whether and like I said, big or small, it doesn't. If you feel like your problem's small, that doesn't mean it's not. That doesn't mean it's not a challenge. That doesn't mean you shouldn't face that.
Mhm.
And it doesn't make you less than somebody else that's going through more if they're accomplishing more.
Right.
It has nothing
100%.
to do with that. Everybody's life and mind is so unique in the way you approach challenges, the way you see challenges. Me and you, we can listen to the same exact speech, and we heard completely different things though.
Mhm.
And so for me, I think it's creating this sort of consistency because no matter how different it is, it can be consistent. And so if we're all consistent within trying to break down a wall, eventually that wall is going to fall. It's only so strong.
Yep. And I think it starts with the leaders, it starts with the captains, it starts with the veterans and the coaches. Like, if we can like create a culture where vulnerability is like respected, it'll trickle down, and everyone will all be affected by it. Everyone will be able to be vulnerable and be comfortable being vulnerable. Like say like you have someone that you look up to, like, yeah, I struggle with that too. Like it gives you permission to breathe a little bit. Like it allows you to know that you don't have to carry it all alone. There's other guys who can listen to, other guys who can give you advice, other guys who have had the same struggles that can probably tell you their experience, which will then you can use what tools they had and apply that to your own life. So it all trickles down, but I think it starts at the top, like the guys who people who are looking at and they have a lot of following. They have people who they care about them. They're viewed in a positive light. So those people need to definitely use their platform and continue to um, allow people to understand that, this is normal. You're okay to not be okay.
100%. And I think that goes definitely beyond the field, but in the same idea, like the veterans, the coaches,
Right.
the head of the family, whoever sits at the top of the table,
100%.
head
Like
of
you
the
said, yeah,
company,
like,
you know?
yeah, because
It's just a trickle down effect. And at the end of the day, we're all looking up to somebody, whether that's a parent, a teacher, a coach, a peer. I mean, it doesn't matter.
right. Like
But
you said,
go
is
ahead.
you said when you said your father said something to you about it, and when you said that to me, it was like, wow, like that's like such a wonderful thing to have like your father there who understands how things are changing, because I'm sure he grew up in an environment, or his father grew up in an environment where you're not like that, like back in that time like men weren't allowed to do that.
Oh, for
So
sure.
being able to, yeah, him being able to know that times are different now, and we're dealing with things differently, and now then push that on you and let you know that it's okay to not be okay, like it's okay to like express yourself, like that's a big thing. And I don't think everyone has that person in their life. Everyone's parents aren't that way.
Mm.
Um, but it's wonderful to have that be something, to understand like, oh, I can look up to my dad and he's telling me like I can actually show my emotions. Like, what? Like that's like, like that's cool to hear from like someone you look up to. Like that's very important and very impactful. And I think more parents need to, or more people who are, in a different generation need to understand that like things are different now, and to let your kid know that it's okay to not be okay. Let your son know, to be vulnerable and like to be able to be comfortable vulnerable. So
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I'm super blessed with the people I'm surrounded by, and it extends far beyond my family. I mean, you,
mhm.
all my, like all the guys, man, I'm
Yep.
blessed. I'm super lucky with
Super
my
blessed.
circle, super lucky with my circle. But and kind of, but building on that, I don't want anybody to feel offended or like feel like they're getting like a shot at them. If you don't have somebody in your circle like that, there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make you less. That doesn't do anything bad.
Mhm.
It just means that we have to look beyond. You just have to search a little further,
Right.
take another step.
Mhm.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And for the people listening to this, if their parents aren't like that, don't hold nothing against them.
Right.
That's not their fault. They grew up in a completely different time where, bro, if you were seeing a therapist, they thought you shouldn't have even been allowed to leave the house. Like you
Literally.
should have been stuck in there. And that's just not the world we're living in now. And I want everybody to know it's not even that there's nothing wrong with therapy. It's that therapy is great. Like that
Great.
it is a
Wonderful
terrific
resource.
tool. Bro, it's the best tool I've used to date. And I'm blessed with a lot of good tools in my tool bag to go to for help. But therapy is easily the best one I've used.
Mhm.
So I just want everybody to know. And obviously, it's not easily accessible. I'm not going to sit here and act like everybody can go and get it. But just being able to talk to somebody and get that off your chest,
Right.
there's I promise you, your friend will listen to you. I would much a lot of this, a lot of the motivation behind this has to do with the Kyron Lacey situation. And honestly, that's beat me up bad.
Mhm.
It's super sad. I can't express enough sympathy for his family. I saw his little brother up on that stage, and
Yeah.
it's hard. It's super hard to see people dealing with stuff like that. And so, bro, just sit there and talk to your friend. Like, I would much rather have a conversation with you than get a phone call about you.
Right. 100%.
I
Yeah.
and everybody feels the same way. There's no that's a permanent solution for a temporary problem. And so I just want everybody listening to know that this isn't the end for you. Like no matter what you're going through, you got better days ahead for sure. Like way better days ahead. You don't know in 3 weeks you could be sitting with your feet kicked up on the beach and the happiest you've ever been. You don't know what tomorrow holds for you.
Literally. Yep.
And so
100%.
I think all we can do is prep ourselves to be the best we can be tomorrow, though. It doesn't matter if you're sitting on the coast, drinking your hand, feet kicked up, surrounded with billions of dollars if you're not right in your head.
Right. Yep.
And so,
You got to take care of the mental aspect first.
for sure, that we're talking about that 90 to 10% of the game, 90% mental, 10% physical. Like that 10%, it just doesn't matter if your 90% is not right.
100%. 100%. That was a good combo.